So today I was listening to music and Xania Monet came up on my playlist. For those who are uninitiated with AI music, Xania Monet is this new AI artist that is trending and is charting on the Billboard R&B charts. Xania's music seems to be quite popular amongst people, and I guess that's why it was recommended to me because I listen to a lot of R&B. But because I don't like discovering new music, I heard the song and I was like, okay, who's this? And I go check and I see it's a song that everybody has been talking about. At first, I wanted to like fast forward and move to the next song, but I was like, okay, hold on, let me listen to this song and see what people are usually saying about AI music because everybody talks about AI music being soulless, and I was like, okay, let me listen to it. To be honest, I wasn't moved by it. I think it sounded like a regular R&B song. Like it didn't sound any different from what an actual R&B song done by a human would sound like. I guess it's perhaps because I already knew it was AI music, but I went to check the comments, and a lot of people seem to actually really like Xania Monet's songs. And it's not just about the comments, but also her streaming numbers are really, really high. I had a lot of thoughts. Obviously, people talk about bots being like the largest audience for AI music, but I think there's a lot of people who are actually listening to this type of music. So I thought today I'm gonna do a video about AI music and just talk about the different aspects I have been thinking about when it comes to AI music. Hi, my name is Garnet, and if you're new here, I make content for people who are curious about AI and the internet. So back to Xania. I watched the interview between the creator behind Xania, her name is Talisha Jones, and Gail King. It was a really interesting interview, and I was kind of intrigued by Talisha's story. So Talisha is a poet and a songwriter who needed a voice behind her songs, and I guess she couldn't find a way to have real singers behind her art, and so she decided to use AI, and she uses Suno for the voice behind her songs. I was a little underwhelmed when she showed her process because I actually thought like there was a lot more to the prompting that she does, but
I would like to see the process.
Okay.
So from the beginning,
I go into Suno.
Suno, okay, that's the music app.
Correct.
Okay.
Suno is a music app. I scroll through my list of poems or what I wrote to see what I want to make a song about.
Got it.
And I just take those lyrics, just go in and paste a sample, style, slow tempo, R&B.
So you're saying I want slow tempo R&B.
She adds a few more prompts into AI music generator Suno, like female, soulful vocals, light guitar, and heavy drums.
And from there, you just create.
all she does is just write R&B, sultry, soulful voice, and then she adds, she uploads her lyrics, and then Suno regurgitates it into an R&B song, and then she listens to like many versions over and over and over until she finds something that is appropriate. So I was very underwhelmed because I actually thought there was a bit more thought towards the prompting, but I guess it is what it is. She is a songwriter, and she says she just uses AI for the voice. The reason why I say she says is because I feel like once you're using AI for a huge part of your work, it's also hard for people to believe that you're not using AI for the other aspects. Like, I'm actually curious, is she using AI to write the songs? But hey, she says that she's a songwriter and she just needed a voice behind the songs, which I was like, okay, cool. I think the thing I'm really curious about is I kind of sort of get the idea behind finding a voice to sell your work, but I think I'm not concerned. I'm curious about her thinking. I would like to understand why she actually used a hyperrealistic avatar to represent the voice, to represent Xania. I'm actually wondering why she built a whole persona around it, because she even has music videos with this persona, Xania. I find that interesting. I'm wondering what the difference between that and, that ChatGPT blue orb, like just having that sing your song. I guess that's the storytelling aspect of it, right? people want a full package, not just a voice. People want to put a face to it, and for Talisha, she wants to put an AI face to it. I think the other question I have is, now that Talisha is signed, why wouldn't she just write for real musicians? And I think this is the weightier part for me, because it's clear that if Talisha is actually writing these songs by herself, she is extremely talented, and a lot of people find her music soulful. A lot of people resonate with her lyrics. So now that she is famous, now that she's blown within like 4 months, why wouldn't she just find actual people to write songs for? And I'm guessing it's because of the revenue split and all that. Like it's much easier to be one person making all aspects of the music and having all the money to yourself versus being a songwriter and only getting partial credits and partial royalties for being a songwriter. But I also know that we're in the era of the $1 million company run by one person trope, where it's like a lot of AI companies are pushing this idea of having one man companies bringing in $1 billion profit because you're using AI. I think it's a whole concept of just having all the proceeds with you and not having to split it with everybody else. I do wonder what are the terms of her being signed, because I know that record deals are usually useless. But yeah, I had a lot of thoughts towards her situation. But I've also been thinking about the other band, Velvet Sundown. So Velvet Sundown is an AI band that's also been trending and in the news, and people have been interested in figuring out who the people behind Velvet Sundown are, or who the person behind Velvet Sundown is, or even companies, because you never know with the AI era. I actually listened to Velvet Sundown. I might have been more moved by Velvet Sundown more than Talisha. I don't know if it's a preference towards indie. Like, I like R&B, but I actually really liked Velvet Sundown. I won't be listening to it though. Like, I'd rather find a real artist that sounds similar, but I didn't mind it. I actually streamed their entire album just to get a feel of what it's like. So another thing I was thinking about is how fast Xania blew. Xania got to Gayle King's interview in 4 months. Like, 4 months from when she started AI music, she was already on CBS with Gayle King and was already doing interviews with people like Tamron Hall. These are interviews that people get after years and years and years of trying to make it in the music industry, and she did it in 4 months. And I think that is going to be a motivating factor for a lot of people to use AI to make music. I think it is just a testament of the post 2020 short form algorithm effect situation. That sounds like word salad. But basically what I'm trying to say is that the short form algorithm has really changed our perception of how fast it gets to be famous or to be successful or to make money. Think about how long Instagram creators used to have to make content for years and years and years. Think about the YouTube creator. They had to make content for years and years and years before they got a brand deal or before they could even sell their audience something. They had to have provided so much value before people forked out their cash for them. Whereas the TikTok creator or the era post 2020, the short form algorithm creator, that creator can literally blow up in a few months and start making brand deals. So it's reshaped the perception of how fast people can get somewhere. And it's clear that the AI era, the generative AI era, because algorithms are also AI, but the Gen AI era is going to make this even faster. And like Xania Monet, Velvet Sundown, these are just examples of how fast people can get there with AI and how fast they can get to $1 billion status as a one-man machine. And that is very interesting for the era that we're in. Obviously, not everyone is going to make it, but I do feel that a lot of people are going to ride on the AI hype wave to make it as fast as possible as they can and cash out and then leave the scene. But yes, in light of this whole AI music situation, I have several thoughts. I can't say anything without saying that AI music is theft. I can't brush past this. I can't greenwash this. Like, there's no amount of over explaining that we can do to actually get away from the fact that AI music is theft. And until the artists whose voices are being used on Suno, whose voices were being used to train these voice models and these song generation models, are paid not only for the original training that was done, but the consistent use of their voices. I think until they're paid, and until there's like a proper royalty structure, and until you can click a model and see which artist's voice was used in making it, I think until then AI music is going to be theft. And it's such a crazy space for a musician to be in, because you're trying to make money off of stealing from other people's voices. I wonder how they feel about it, especially people like Xania and Velvet Sundown, who are automating the entire process and actually using voices that they do not know. It would be very interesting if a model like Suno actually said that if you prompt R&B, these are the voices that are being used in this model. This is how much it was mixed. It's 20% this person, 20% this person. I think until then, yeah, AI music is theft. But also the other thing I'm thinking about is the revenue split. It's very unfair right now that AI musicians, or yes, I couldn't think of a term, but it's very unfair that AI musicians are making money from the same revenue split that is being used to pay real artists. So think about the revenue share on a streaming platform like a pie. There's only one pie, and every artist gets a slice out of that pie based on their percentage of streams that contributed to that pie. And so AI music is cutting into that pie. And I think that's very unfair. If you have watched a couple of my videos, you know that I oppose the idea of having AI creations and human creations in the same site. I oppose the idea of having AI bots and AI users on the same site. And in the same way with music, I am against the idea of royalties that are being generated also by human artists being split with AI musicians. That's crazy. If the proponents of AI music really feel that it can move people, that it is soulful enough, that it can actually be a category of its own, then Suno should have its own streaming site so that people who want to listen to AI music can go and listen to it there, so that it's not deceptive. Because what's happening right now is like what happened to me. You listen to R&B and Xania gets put up in your playlist, and if you're not paying attention, your stream counts towards their revenue. A lot of people are not actually aware that they're listening to AI, and it doesn't help that streaming platforms are also not labeling AI. And so it's like this messy, deceptive circle that's going on. And I think that if they really think that AI music can stand on its own, make another streaming site so that if I want to go listen to that, I can go listen to that, and the money generated for AI artists is actually earned by them. But also, I think the rates should be different. I do not think that writing R&B, soulful, da 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 should get you the same amount of money or the same amount of percentage payout that Beyonce, who spends months and years in rooms with like hundreds of songwriters and musicians and everything. I don't think you should be getting the same rate. It's insanely crazy. And the rates that streaming companies are going to be willing to pay out to AI musicians should reflect that this work is it's automated. It's not creative. It's not, there isn't much labor put towards it, and so the rates that are being paid towards that should reflect that. And I think that that would also help kill the AI is soulless situation, because right now a lot of people who are making AI music are doing it just to get streams and just to make money. So a lot of it is just churned out rubbish, right? But if you tell somebody that you're only going to make this tiny amount on this stream because your music does not take as much labor to make, then it disincentivizes the people who just want to make AI slop music from doing that. And then the real creative people who actually want to make beautiful music from AI can meaningfully do that and also earn based on a fairer rate. I think that would solve a lot of the AI slop problem that's on the internet right now. My second thought is that streaming companies are really doing themselves a disservice by not labeling AI music, and they're making the experience less enjoyable for people who actually want to use them to discover new music. Right now, because AI music is not being labeled, if you're listening to a genre, an AI music generated within that genre will likely show up in your playlist and you will like it and add it to your playlist and continue listening to it over and over again. And then one day you discover it's AI and you get annoyed and you're less trusting of any new music coming your way. And that's the problem. They are devaluing the experience for people who like to discover new music and putting the burden on them to have to now go and look at, oh, who made this song? What is their process? Are they real? What are their interviews like? And this is going to hurt the underground artists, new artists, niche artists, because people are going to want to continue listening to the artists they already know or the mainstream artists because they don't want to have to do the work of figuring out, okay, who are these people? And this is already being seen. We saw how when Korean Demon Hunters, the songs off of the soundtrack went viral, people on Twitter were saying this is the effect of having AI music be accepted by society. And the artists and singers behind the Korean Demon Hunters soundtrack were really, really hurt because this was their actual work being devalued into AI music just because it sounded poppy or like, yeah, it sounded like pop. And that's going to continue happening. And I think it's only fair that streaming platforms start labeling this music because the people who like and are moved by this music will still listen to it, while the people who don't want to contribute to it can safely opt out. I think it's fairer that way. So the third thing I've been thinking about, and I think this is where maybe some people might disagree with me, but is on the concept of AI music being soulless. Where I agree with this line of thinking is with the amount of people who are just making AI music slop just to cash out on streaming apps and, you know, make money. But like when I look at Xania Monet's work, like I might not find that the songs are moving me, but I can't take away the fact that people actually find resonance in the stuff that she's singing about. I also listened to Velvet Sundown. I actually really liked the stuff that was on Velvet Sundown's album, and I thought it was catchy. But I was reading the comments on Reddit and I was just thinking, honestly. And one comment is like, this band is soulless and every song sounds the same. In my head, I was like, okay, this argument is sort of similar to the argument that people have about the music industry nowadays and what's on Billboard Top 100. People are like, everything sounds the same, there's nothing new, all these artists are doing is sampling over and over again. And honestly, I love a good sample. Like when Summer Walker sampled Luther Vandross's The Closer I Get to You. Absolutely love it. But I also understand that there is a lack of novelty in what's being released nowadays. Like every song sounds familiar, and then when you go and dig into it, you're like, oh, this was from the 80s, or this was from the 70s, or this was from the 90s, because everybody loves to sample a 90s song. And I see there's a lot of pressure on artists to come up with something new. I think that's where AI music might start standing out. If you have songwriters like Xania who have never been discovered using AI voices to voice their work, maybe that's going to bring a bit of diversity. If you have producers using AI to make new beats or new sounds, I think that's pretty cool. Another thing I think about with the AI soulless argument is that most people can't actually tell the difference between AI music and real music. So DISA did a study in 5 countries and 97% of people could not tell which song was AI and which one was human. So this was a study done with 9,000 people and only 3% could tell the difference. I think that speaks to something about perhaps AI music is not all that soulless. But I guess it's also because, once again, AI music is stolen off of people's real voices. So if you're channeling somebody's real voice, are you going to be soulless? But the other thing I saw online is that people are saying AI is for people with no talent. While I was underwhelmed by Xenia Monet's prompting situation, I don't know if I could 100% write off people are using AI in music as talentless. I think that perhaps there's room for, like a co-pilot situation there. I think the problem then becomes how much is cheating versus how much is just augmenting your work. I saw Teddy Swims say that he uses AI to cut down the amount of time he'd go to the studio and re-record something, and he would just use AI to patch maybe a change in a lyric. I think that's useful considering studio time is expensive and not many artists have as much resources as they need to spend as much time in the studio or spend as much time creating stuff over and over and over and over and over again. I perhaps think there's a way that artists can use AI in there. Now the question then becomes, if Teddy Swims is using AI to help his work, is his work automatically soulless? People on the internet were actually saying his work is soulless now, and what's it called? His work is soulless now, and they were removing him from their Spotify list and saying, oh yeah, that's why his music sounds like garbage. But I see his point. I think there is room for technology being used. I think the thing is, I think he's just one of the very few to admit that they're actually using AI. I think a lot more people, like producers, are definitely using AI. They just won't say it because it's bad for the brand. You're going to get cancelled right now if you actually are honest about how much of AI you're using in your work. Artists right now have so much pressure to not reheat anybody's nachos and to come up with something new. So I do think that people are going to be using AI to assist their work. Now, maybe there should be standards about how much assistance can happen here. I don't know what people like the Grammys would say with an AI assisted album versus a work that was made by hand through and through. I don't know. This is just thoughts I'm thinking out loud. Yeah, people want Beyonce quality albums without the Beyonce budget. Like, management companies are not spending anything on their artists and they still expect that same level of work. So I do think there is space for some assistance there. I just don't know how much. I'm not an artist, so I would prefer if the artist said something in the comments. And my last thought of the day is, what if everyone's lying? And I have a place I'm coming from with this. There's this AI channel on YouTube called Nobody and the Computer. It's like my favorite AI channel over here. And the people that run the channel made a film called Robot. And in this film, it's a world where humans get completely replaced by robots in every single space. So this guy goes to work and finds that he's being replaced by a robot at work. And so he's like, okay, he needs to find how to make money and survive. And so he remembers he can sing. And so he goes to a bar to ask if he could sing live for some money. And he finds that even at the bar, they're like, oh yeah, now we're using robots to sing. And so this is a world where now robots have taken over everything and humans are not doing anything anymore. So this guy comes up with an idea. He dresses up as a robot, like a whole cyborg suit, and goes and starts singing live in bars. And he starts charting, just like Xania Monet. He starts charting, and people everywhere talking about this new robot artist who sounds so soulful. He sounds like a human. And the news headlines are talking about how he is ending the problem of robots not sounding human. But then he eventually reveals that he's actually human. And then the people are like, oh, so we can actually go back to this era when humans are the ones making songs. And I think maybe that's what could be happening here. Like, look at Velvet Sundown. Nobody knows who's behind the band. Everybody just knows it's AI generated. What if it's not? What if it's some indie band making music? For sure, Velvet Sundown is AI, but I'm sure there are other people going to come up pretending to be AI because there's a lot of hype towards AI. People will listen to something just because they're curious about, okay, what does this AI music sound like? And I think a lot of people are riding behind the wave of AI and perhaps even lying that it's AI, but are actually just making the art, cashing out on the AI hype. I think that could be happening. So what if everyone's lying? We've gotten to the end of this video. I think my final thoughts are that labels are greedy. The music industry is brutal. I think AI is going anywhere because AI means that record labels, management companies can spend less money and make way more money. Look at Timbaland signing a new AI artist, yet there's so many people who come to his TikTok live to demonstrate their art every single day, but he's signing an AI artist. And I think that what might help is having standards in places like the Grammys. I think it's time that places like the Grammys actually made a stance on what their view towards AI assistance or entire AI automation of music looks like. And I think it's either two ways. It's either the Grammy says no to AI, or similar places like the Grammys. I'm just using the Grammys as an example. It's either they say no to AI, or they have guidelines to what is acceptable use of AI. Perhaps that would be better, because it would help people already using AI for assistance to have some sort of like measured standard to work by. Or they could go like the iHeartRadio way and say completely no to AI, which I think is also an angle to look at. Trade-offs to be considered. I personally would prefer that AI music has its own category completely aside from human music. And by AI music, I mean completely AI generated AI music like Xania Monet's and Velvet Sundown. I think that stuff should just go to the side, have its own category, have its own, I don't know, Grammys type situation to award them and what innovation looks like in that side of the world. But I think we need to maintain integrity for human artists, because they're already struggling. Being a musician is already so precarious that having a musician compete with an AI for revenue is fucking insane. And yeah, I personally do not support it at all. Yeah, I do not like how I rambled through this video. I had a script, but I did not stick to it as well. I, however, will get better and better. If you've gotten up to here, please do subscribe to my channel, and yeah, look out for more content in December.